All right, everyone. Review Realm here, and today got a good release for you. 3 of us are here to talk about it. So from my understanding, this is Protest the Hero's 5th studio album, Palimpsest. I think I'm saying that right.
I smell toast every time I say it, so yeah.
I know I had to look up the pronunciation because that's not a word I heard before. Apparently that word means it's like when you erase something off of a document and then you write over that document, something along those lines. You know, I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but that's what I read.
I sense some political undertones here. It's a thing they tend to.
Yeah, definitely. This is their first album in 7 years, since 2013's Volition.
It's been that long?
7 years. Been a long time since the last album. I'll be honest with you guys. This was my first sit down with Protest the Hero. I never really listened to him before.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm just learning this right now.
I've always heard the name. I always knew that, you know, like they worked with Chris Adler on the last album and everything like that. I don't know. I just never got around to listening to it. So with Palimpsest, I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised at how good this album is. This is a really fun album to listen to.
Right out the gate, my initial impression, I've listened to it a couple times now, is it's just standard Protest. Standard Protest the Hero. Nothing for me comparatively was all that memorable. Right, but I didn't dislike it. I enjoyed it, and there were moments where I was like, yes, this is awesome, followed by moments of, okay, it's what they do. I just think it was just a general solid release, but I enjoyed it.
One of my favorite highlights of this band has always been Ronnie Walker's voice. Very unique. When you hear him, you know who it is.
That's the thing I was most pleasantly surprised by, because I had no idea what their vocalist sounded like. So when he comes right in on Migrant Mother, I'm like, holy crap, I'm like, this guy's got a voice.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be the naysayer again. I feel like that's my job nowadays. So right out the gate, yeah, no, I agree. Like right out into the Migrant Mother was really awesome. It actually, to me, was one of the standout tracks. I think sometimes the band's sound can be a victim of him going a little too overboard at times. You know what I mean? Like he pushes it so much, you know, because he does have quite a range. You'd never know because he's almost always singing in falsetto.
Yeah.
But he does have quite the range. I think sometimes he tries to belt it out too much and it drowns out what the rest of the band is doing. Because very often the rest of the band is doing, well, they have that signature kind of like noodly sound where it's not always the most technical, but it's, you know, it's proficient. It's not easy to play. Good luck playing it. But sometimes they have some really, really dynamic and interesting parts that are really tough to listen to and pick out all the subtleties of because they're being drowned out by such a loud, powerful voice. And to me, sometimes it detracts from what they're trying to achieve. I feel like that this album was actually a really good case study in that.
And I had actually read that in the past, 2018 or around there, that he blew out his voice. He had said that this album was a real challenge because of that. Because of that for him.
What he did after blowing out his voice on this album is beyond impressive.
Yeah, I'm like,
they're all skillful. There's no question.
To still have a voice like this, even after, you know, possibly like damaging it like significantly, I'm like, this guy is really good.
I was actually also really surprised by the length, the amount of tracks.
Yeah, actually, you know, when I took first glance at it, 13 songs, you know, running about 52 minutes. What I like about this album is that, you know, you have a few really nice instrumentals on this album. They're really good, and if you notice, they're all a side, you know, harbor side, mountainside, hillside. And I'm like, that was a nice touch, and they were good instrumentals.
Normally, bands would consider those little fillers, and they almost are that, but they're just nice and pretty enough to be like, yeah, I just want to listen to it. I like it. You know, I'd rather not pass those over. In fact, I'd rather listen to some of those tracks than some of their actual, like, full-on band tracks.
I like the way that they go into the next song, especially like the way Harborside goes into All Hands. All Hands is definitely one of my favorite songs on the album, but I like that they all have like a nice transition into the songs following them.
Some of the highlights for me was From the Sky. Again, that's one that even when I was working, you know, I would put it in the background and then that song would come on and it would just, I don't know, it stuck out, especially towards the end where, you know, like we're talking about where he plays with his voice and he really pushes it. Rivet, I think, is a really strong, solid ender.
one of the best songs I've heard in a really long time. That one really surprised me. When I saw the album cover and everything, I'm like, all right, what's this album about? What's interesting with this band is that they're Canadian, and they wrote an album pretty much about, I guess, almost how they see American history. They kind of put a spin on it a little bit. Some of the things that are brought up on this album are people like Amelia Earhart, FDR. I think the Hindenburg incident was one of them.
We were just looking at the lyrical themes and whatnot. I think they were talking about when they wrote the album, the election from 4 years ago was going on. Obviously, without getting into detail, one side was promoting the greatness of America, and they were like, yeah, we don't agree with that, but we can agree that there are great things about the country, even from an outside perspective. So they try to take things that have happened, innovation, other people and whatnot.
I was trying to read some of the comments and try to see is that their stance, do they support this person? And reading into it more, like you had said, Sam, not quite. They don't fully support, but I mean, the idea they think can be done.
They're giving their point of view on what they see was going on during that time.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't have to look at the lyrics. I think the album cover is actually really cool. I think it's good. It's definitely worth a couple more listens. It's not their strongest release, I think, as Ken and I have said a couple of times, but it's definitely something that will be revisited over the next few months.
I don't know, call the musician in me, but it's a lot of the more instrumental driven sections where you would have the verses. And I'll say one of the other things that I wasn't all that impressed with was the drumming. They've shifted drummers so many times.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure who their drummer is. I didn't even see. But it definitely felt a little more overproduced than earlier releases, and lacked a bit of the creativity that tends to go into it. And that's the thing with their style, with any kind of progressive metal band, the drums are often, they're just as vital as the other instruments. A lot of creative use of cymbals, a lot of just interesting rhythms. And on this album, I just felt like it was pretty just standard. Here's what you would logically write as a drum part for this section. Just proficient and efficient enough to just do what logically makes sense. And to me, that probably is one of the things that kind of left me as a little bit more disinterested than earlier releases. Just here's standard protest. Here's what you expect. You expect them to do really noodly parts with some interesting rhythms, and there's going to be some counterpoint harmony. While meanwhile, the vocalist is going to sing really high parts over it and belt it in a very new age 80s sound, 80s metal hairband sound. And it's all right, that's what they do, but I'm not going to remember anything from this album, which is the unfortunate part, except probably the really nice little soft instrumental sections.
I'm definitely going to have to go back and probably listen to the earlier works, because this being my first sit down with them, I was impressed by what everybody else is saying. I guess maybe this band has even more to give than just this. I think Palimpsest is still a solid release.
It's better than a lot of the things I've listened to recently coming out, and to me, if this at the very least shows me, hey, they still got it. Now, maybe if they've got a solid foundation again, they've got their creativity, their creative juices flowing again. It's been a long time. Maybe this is okay. We needed to put out this release, and hopefully they continue on the trajectory of putting out something maybe a little bit more interesting.
Looks like, and obviously the drummer left, like we were talking about. They also lost their bass player a few years ago. So it sounds like they're going through some lineup changes. I mean, they only have 3 members who are original members still.
Despite my criticisms, they're still unquestionably a wildly talented group of individuals. Really seem to enjoy what the hell they do. They've always been one of those bands that I've always looked to as they're setting a bar for musicianship in metal. I come to you with the criticisms from love, because I know what you guys are capable of.
I think it's called constructive criticism.
Yeah. Also, this pasta's awesome.
On the scale of no pasta to manja, where we at? Where we at here, Ken?
On the status of undercooked to overcooked pasta, where does it lie?
It's definitely not overcooked. Undercooked pastas, I like my pasta a little al dente. I would say it's what you expect from pasta. Cooked at a solid, 7.5, 8 minutes.
But I would say that this album has definitely opened up, I guess, the progressive side of me a little bit more. Not that I don't have that anyway, but I mean, I don't think not nearly as much as the two of you.
Oh no.
So I mean, this is definitely showing me that side of the genre has a lot to offer, and I'm starting to be more and more impressed with what I hear. So I mean, so this album was nice, a nice surprise for me this year. What did the rest of you think of this album? Please leave it in the comments section below. Do you think Protest the Hero? They've had a nice, I guess, nice 7 years off. Finally put out some new music. What do you think of it? Let us know.
Is it al dente?
Pasta.
We'll see you for the next one.